I began my meditation practice in January of 1971, was years ago, at a retreat in Bodh Gaya, India. Ram Dass was there, Krishna Das was there, Ramesh was there. And one of the things that that teacher said, it was an intensive retreat for 10 days, and the first night he said something that was really important for me, which was, the Buddha did not teach Buddhism, the Buddha taught a way of life. And a somewhat later teacher also said something really important for me when he looked at me and he said, the Buddha's enlightenment solved the Buddha's problem, now you solve yours. And it was actually, I often get the sense when I say that I'm not quite conveying how great that was for me, because it really was a wonderful moment, because it felt to me like someone was looking at me almost for the first time and saying, you can solve your problem. You can solve the problem of the confusion and the unhappiness that's brought you here to India to begin with. You can do something about this. And it was amazing. And so I did. I really see meditation practice as that cupping of one's hand. It's like a skills training. First of all, a training in concentration, so that to the degree we experience ourselves as somewhat scattered or distracted, we learn to gather the energy. We learn to gather our attention so that it's steadier, it's more steadfast. We're really much more cohesive or centered. And that's a big thing, of course, because that's quite a lot of energy we generally have that's not available to us because it's just flying all over the place. Even here. One of the mornings that I was here, before most of you got here, and I was sitting at the restaurant having breakfast, looking at the ocean. This bird was hopping on my table, and the temptation to pull out my iPhone was so strong. And I thought, I can't do that. Really, that's like too much. But how often are we just not there? Even when we're in a place like this. Our energy, our attention is just flying all over the place. It goes to the past, goes to the future. What about that shuttle when I leave? What time should I ask for it? But what we do is we actually train in that skill of just gathering the attention together, bringing it together, so that we do feel centered. And we also feel whole. We feel like knit together. Because the larger expression of that kind of distractedness is a sense of fragmentation, where it's the way we get into role identification or compartmentalizing, so that so many people say they feel like they're one person at work and a different person at home. Or somebody, I was teaching somewhere and somebody raised their hand and said like the best thing. She said, I feel filled with loving kindness for all beings everywhere as long as I'm alone. But once I'm with others, it's really rough. So, and I love that, because don't we know that? Or it could be the other way around. So easily we might feel fine when we're with others, but feel quite ill at ease being alone. So our lives can be so divided and fragmented. And here we are, bringing it together, so that we can experience the integration of our being. So that's one of the skills we learn in meditation. And we learn skills of mindfulness and presence and mindful awareness as well, so that we're connected to our experience and in a free way, so that we're not necessarily carrying the self-image of old, or the kind of fears or anxieties or distress or certainties that we might just be assuming that might not even be true. And there's so many ways in which our minds just spin out. Like, I know what this means, and I know who they are. I know who I am, but really, do we? And so learning to relax some of that, the rigidity of those categories, and to actually look to pay attention much more fully, to discover for ourselves this feeling, this moment, this person, is the nature of mindfulness. To really connect, and without those veils of distortion. So we'll practice some of that as well. And then I actually think of meditation as being a kind of skills training in love or loving kindness or compassion, so that we discover both capacities within and the nature of the loving heart in ways that might not be the way that we actually just assumed. We might assume quite a bit of limitation, or we might assume a lot of conventional mediums of exchange. Even the word love is so confusing for us, generally speaking. What do we mean when we use the word love? Sometimes people do frankly mean a medium of exchange. I will love you as long as you love me in return, as long as the following 15 conditions are met. And I once used that example teaching, and someone in the room called out, only 15 conditions? So I will love you as long as however many conditions are met. I will love myself as long as I never make a mistake. So what does that mean, really? In terms of stability, in terms of support, in terms of nurturance or nourishment. It's not going to last very long. I will love myself as long as I never make a mistake. So we're really talking about something very different in terms of connection and understanding and presence and care that can be sustained through all kinds of different circumstances and changes. That's the skills training of it. And I think it's very funny because we don't tend to think of that as a skill. We think of it as a gift, that some people have it or other people don't. And if you don't, you're out of luck. But here we are, cupping our hands, doing something a little different, sometimes taking some risks with our attention, with our awareness, so that we can see more clearly what we're really capable of, or even the love that's there. Although I'm trying to remember exactly what Ramdas said yesterday. It was something like, you can't love a psychologist, or you can't love a psychotherapist, or something like that. That was very funny. And I was thinking that would make a great T-shirt, except it would probably need a little subtitle or something like that, because it's out of context. It's somewhat hard to describe. But I also know that because I teach so much loving kindness meditation, which we'll start tomorrow to do together, that there are a lot of ways, and actually it'd be interesting for me to hear from all of you, because I would actually bet it was not so, but there are a lot of ways when I go around teaching in which people seem to associate having a loving heart with being maybe a little stupid or weak or foolish and a little gooey, like I'll let myself be hurt or abused and I'll just kind of smile, or I'll let other people be treated unjustly and I'll just kind of smile. It's a little too saccharine. But, of course, in reality, love and loving kindness, compassion are like a tremendous force which can transform this world